Hello, everyone. This is Professor Imler, and I'm here to talk about, in, well, you could say philosophy, but really I'm going to say the academy, right? So, across all your classes and kind of across all of society, here are three ways, right? Three ways we can talk about value. Um, in your eyes, right now, how do you think about value? What is it? What's important? And how do you know how important something is? And how do you compare two things? Right, I got multiple coffee cups. How do you compare these two? Um, do you go off of sentiment? I like the color red. Do you go off of, well, it's important to me to have hot coffee, so whatever does keeps it the most warm? Or is it something else? Like this cost a certain amount of tokens and this cost a different amount of. How do you go about comparing things and just talking about what we find valuable? So anyway, with these kind of questions in mind, there are three general ways that we talk about value across the academy. And it might be the case that some of our problems in society happen when we take one of these values and, sorry, what I'm wanting to say is, think about when we talk about economic value as a way of justifying what we do, and that contradicts with our philosophical values. So let's say that we care about helping people in need, and we do that, but then we have a budget shortfall. Well, do we decide to raise more money, or do we say, well, we have to make the books balance, so we just have to cut programs, right? That's an example of we have a tension between the value of helping people and some other economic value. Like we have to make sure we have, just a concern for balance of tokens, that kind of stuff. Um, so anyway, let's talk through these. We want to make sure that we are able to keep separate when we're talking about different types of these. So anyway, let's walk through them. The first one here is our big one, right? In philosophy and ethics, that kind of stuff, we really are often talking about philosophical or sociological values. So here, this is the highest goods. So it is what we find the most important: honesty, fairness, um, reciprocity, those types of things. Um, let's see. So here's values in the philosophic sense. So David Graeber, he does I don't know if I have the book here. I do. Uh, a toy just dropped from my thing. Okay, so this is an anthropological theory of value, the book I have here, and in it, he's quoting this guy named Kluckholm. I don't know how to say it, but he's talking about values in the philosophic sense. And so this is, like I said earlier, conceptions of what is ultimately good, proper, right? You pay your debts, or if someone helps you, you help them back, or desirable in human life. What do we like? Do we like our TV shows? Do we like working outside? Do we like getting together? Do we like building something new? What is the point of all of this, right? We have different points of view. So when we think about philosophic values, rather than taking an approach that says, well, like mathematically, we can figure out that this is a true value, and if this is other a true value, then we can, right? Rather than like building it like building blocks, we're saying, okay, what do people care about? And then we can listen to why they care about it, and say, okay, well, that's a good idea, or I might change it, right? But we're beginning with what people value on the ground actually, versus like an abstract truth that we then say everyone has to value this. Um, right. So a really easy way to say this is values are ideas about what people should be wanting. Um, all right. Examples here: freedom, work ethic, loyalty, etc. Who doesn't want people to be loyal to them? Okay. And notice this is how much of our lives are structured by this. Okay, value in the economic sense. So let's pop up here and look at this real quick again, right? So economic value in the shorthand is just us assigning monetary values, numbers, right? That is $5, that is $6. We can compare those concretely. It is exactly $1 more, right? So what's cool about economic value is we can compare things. We can say, here's this, here's that. What's the difference? That's nice. That is nice. And we use it all over the place for budgets, for like I'm in an office, how we set up the office, what we have available to us. Um, and value here is important. Try to take a refrigerator from Best Buy. They're going to want it back and they value it so much, they're going to like call the cops or something, right? This is real value. We do care about it. How do we go about pricing things economically? Well, there's a few different ways. Okay, so let's talk about value in the economic sense, and then we'll get back to that. So things like money, debt, pricing, uh, they have economic value. And what's really cool is we can substitute things. I can transform an hour of my work into X amount of dollars, and then I can transform those dollars into, well, right, this book I enjoy reading, right? So we can substitute things. And we call this measuring of substitutions against one another. This is the key word, exchange value, right? We're trading things back and forth. Um, so economic value deals with the value of exchanges, which, and this is from a different class of mine, but we can talk about, well, how do we exchange stuff, right? So here is a quick, I might have a better one, but here's a quick little diagram of three basic ways that we relate to one another. And I want to talk through these. So the first one, I'm going to begin with mutuality here. And that's interesting because we often will think of um, trading back and forth between equals as mutuality. But we actually want to say something else. I might need to just actually spend the time to pull up this note. Okay, so you'll skip ahead to whatever time, but I gotta dig this note up real quick. Okay, because it's better. Okay, I think this one is going to be better. Okay, sorry for that little excursion. Let me get my window as good as I can. All right, so here are the three primary economic and social relationships that we can talk about and think through these. Okay, so let's begin with down here with down there with mutuality, um, right? So we can talk about this in terms of kinship, right, or deep family. So think about so yeah, let's talk about how we relate. So here I want to say that we share because we see each other as the same, not equals, as the same, which is something interesting and unique. But let's keep going. So there's kin and mutuality, right? We see each other as the same as family, and we just share things, right? So let's think about Thanksgiving dinner or whatever kind of holiday we want to talk about. Um, if I ask you to pass the mashed potatoes, what do you do? Do you say, well, Tommy has passed three sets of things to me. That's three passes. I have passed corn and green beans to him, so that's two. So yeah, I own one more pass, and then we'll be equal, and then we can be happy with that. That's not what happens. Instead, you just pass the mashed potatoes. Why? Because someone just like you asked for it, and Yeah, that's what you do. And that's normal. It would be kind of inconceivable to play a trading game during a meal. Um, but when do we do that? When we go out to eat. So let's think about that. So we're moving here from sharing to trading. And let's just see if we can write that down. Share and then trade. Okay, so now let's go to trading. If I see you as an equal, then as we relate, that should be roughly the same. And let's take the mashed potatoes example. If I'm out to eat, I see myself as equal to everybody there. The server, my friends, myself, right? We're all equal. So whenever I ask the server, or really the restaurant, to bring me some mashed potatoes, they don't just go, well, all right, here you go. That's it. Hope you enjoy them. Instead, right at the end of the meal, they're going to want, again, $2, whatever it cost, in direct proportion. And so as I ask and pay and receive, we are trading things back and forth as equals. And we have to pass back and forth equal shares of economic value when we relate. Anyway, what's cool here is the very process of trading things back and forth. It forces you to treat the other as an equal, and so it can actually build a sort of big other in the community as we trade. And this is kind of one of the at least ideas behind not globalism as we're doing it, but kind of a anarchist globalism where everyone can move around, everyone can engage one another as equals, versus kind of, well, having lines drawn around everything that you can't cross. Okay, so that is those two. But then we have another one uh, called hierarchy, and this is when I don't see us as the same. I am somehow better than, better than. This is a philosophic value, and it justifies the economic relationship. So here, what we're doing is we're extracting, right? So let's use another example. Instead of, so we need to think of one where there's a hierarchical relationship. An easy way to do this is to think about feudal relationships. Um, and so under a feudal relationship, you have a lord or a master, whatever, and they come to you and say, all right, you get to hang out on this land, but come fall, I'm going to need X amount of potatoes, period, no matter what. Regardless if you go hungry, I need my potatoes. And so at the end of the harvest, they come by and they take their cut, no matter what. Um, and they think they have a right to it because they are better than you. And this can be an illegal arrangement, this can be religious, this can be all sorts of ways that we justify thinking we're better than another group of people. Once we do that, we can justify in our minds pulling more from them than we give back, right? Extracting stuff from them. This can be time, this can be labor, this can be creativity, this can be so many things. Um, so, anyway, those are kind of three ways that we deal with one another economically. We can share and not keep track, we can keep track and be equals, or we can have an exploitative relationship. Either we can be the people exploiting, or we might be the people exploited. And notice once you look at that, you ask a whole lot of questions that can get a little difficult to deal with at times. So anyway, three basic forms. Let's go back to value. Okay. Um, yeah. So anytime we exchange goods, services, or information, we're doing one of those three. And so it's helpful to be thinking about which one are we doing at what time? Or when we think about government or business and what they do in our lives, what do we want? How do we want to structure this? Anyway, let's keep going. Um, Yeah, so how should we price things in a society? And right, this is a philosophy class, so we're not doing all of the economic 101 things. Um, but do consider this in light of that, right? We want to do some comparative stuff, integrate our fields of study. Okay, so how do you judge the value of a refrigerator versus wage of a laborer, etc.? Um, how do we assign numbers to things? There are a few ways, uh, and I'll just kind of talk through one and four. In the past, we went with the labor theory of value. And this is that notion that your time is one thing you can never get back. And if you can never ever get your time back, it's of incredible value to you. Um, and is fundamentally you. You are the person living out your time, right? So, anyway, if I give you a pile of wood and I ask you to make a chair, what do you actually do? Well, in this theory, you take um, your skills, your mind, your time, your creativity, and you pour them into the chair. Uh, in this way, you have a bit of you in the chair, and you own yourself, right? If you own yourself, and you put some of you in the chair to make it, then you own the chair. This is the kind of the liberal theory of property, just right there. Um, and if we can figure out how much your time is worth, how much the materials cost, etc., we can add all that up, add a little bit of profit, and boom, we have the price of a chair. And that seems rational in a certain way. Here are the costs. We want a little bit of extra. That's how we price it. All right, and that makes sense. And you can price things consistently according to this. Um, but sorry, late in the 1800s and throughout the 1900s, we developed a different approach. Kind of this, I don't know if I have much here. Um, yeah, yeah, this is good. So, how we do it right now, how we actually do this is marginal value. So the true price, the actual price of a commodity, is whatever someone is willing to give up for it. That becomes its true price. If Elon Musk wants to pay $70 billion for Twitter, and the market prices it at 44 billion, well, the real price is 70 because somebody paid 70. Um, and so is this a good and rational way of pricing things? Right? We're not going off of time and materials. We're just going off of how much can somebody pay? What's the most we can get out of this? And then that is the one true good value. Um, Now this does two things. It unhooks, right? It unhooks the price of a thing from what actually went in to make it. And that's really interesting in a few ways. Uh, the other thing it does is it raises the price of, well, goods and services that meet our desires. So like think iPhones, think streaming services, etc. Think second homes, who can afford those? Well, if it goes off of, well, I mean, really, it's only the people who can pay the most, right? Because they have the most amount of funds already. Uh, And so if we price things the highest always, well, they're going to be able to always get what they want and the best, and then not so much for everyone else, right? Because they raise the prices of things. So the other thing is this. Sorry. The other thing that this does is it disconnects our needs from our wants. Um, Water, we need that. That has uh, a certain kind of use value, right? If you don't have water, we all have a gigantic use for water. If we don't have housing, if we don't have water, we die. So those are like huge needs. Um, do we price water that way, or do we bundle it up in little bottles and then sell it at a really high markup and call it luxury for some reason when it's just water? So anyway, there are some issues with the marginal theory of value, but it is one that's used today, and it's one that, well, we can get I'm sorry. The nice thing about this is it tells us in a nice, easy way how to value things. It's the most someone will give up. I can figure that out. I can price things at Best Buy. They go out the door, I priced them right. If I didn't, I need to reprice them because someone is not going to pay that much. Okay, a little bit on economic value from a philosophical standpoint. Okay, so we've talked through this. Use value, that is merely, hey, I need to use this stuff to live. I have a high use for it. Um, and so it should be priced so that I can get it. And if we look at housing in this country, we can see that we go off of the marginal theory of value, right? What's the most we can get out of our home when we sell it, um, versus like, hey, everyone needs a home. So this is actually kind of where we have a tension between, if I can pull this up, between philosophical values, people should have their basic needs met, versus economic value, but these homeless people don't have enough money to buy a home. So we have homeless, right? That's the where these two things come into conflict. We have social problems. Okay, what else do we have here? We have linguistic value. And right, I leave this at the end because it's more important in other fields. But just this notion of symbols only have meaning and therefore value and importance within systems. So a nice way to think about this, and I don't know if I have a dictionary around. It might be, I think it's over there. I'll be right back. Yeah, I guess. Oh, these are okay. Sorry about that. Um, I almost dropped this off my table. Not set up well. All right, I'm back at it. Okay, so here I have a Latin dictionary, and here I have a Hebrew grammar. Um, I don't know anything about Hebrew. If I see a Hebrew word, it's baffling to me. I have no clue. If I see an English word, I know exactly what to do with it. That's because I know the system of English and I don't know the system of ancient Hebrew. I have a decent knowledge of Latin, so I can do some translation, but notice I'm translating. Um, and if I'm not able to translate, then I'll have no idea what a symbol means. So in my classes, sometimes we'll talk about this little weird thing, right? And so it looks like a T. What is this? If I just see this on the road, well, it maybe the Christians use it. Kind of looks like a cross, but it doesn't look like a very good cross. Maybe some child tried to do a wood project. Uh, maybe this is upside down. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a kid's sword upside down. I don't know. But once I start to understand the system that, oh, also, how much should I sell this for? What's its economic value? I don't know because I don't know its context. So we need to know context to understand things, and getting to know that context can be very hard. You might have to learn a language or a religion or just talk to people. So this is I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, this is a palm cross or an olive cross, and it's actually designed to fit in your hand. And I don't know, you can rub it or, like feel the tactile parts or do prayers or something. I'm not all that familiar with it, but it's used within several Christian traditions, and it's a pretty important, like, little piece of spiritual technology, actually. But if you don't know those things, this just looks like a weird, lumpy thing of wood. So, okay, so those are kind of the three ways that we talk about value in the academy, and it's really kind of important to know which one we're talking about at which time. Just go back to that homeless example. Um, I think that's mostly what we wanted to cover. Let's just scroll down here. We got those problems, marginal. Yep, I think that's about it. Um, okay, so here's a quick, 20-minute discussion on value. I'm not going to cut this up but follow the timestamps in the table of contents below. I can get this out the door today, but if I cut it all up and make it nice and neat and little, it'll take me 2 more days to do, and I might not get to it. Okay, so here's our discussion, and I'll see you in the comments, forums. Let's talk. All right, goodbye. As soon as I figure out how to stop this.